Brand new evidence that the warrantless wiretapping of Americans was even more egregious than we thought, including an attempt to wiretap a member of Congress. While the current wiretapping program of the National Security Agency, the one granted by a congressional seal of approval, has systematically exceeded that law. In our third story in the countdown, James Risen of the New York Times, who co-authored the latest investigation into the NSA program, will join us in a moment. The quote-unquote over-collection of domestic communications has been significant and systemic, occurring over recent months. This according to unnamed intelligence officials and lawyers with knowledge of the matter speaking to the New York Times. One official described the excessive surveillance as unintentional, and the problem may be the agency's inability to easily distinguish between overseas and domestic communications as it sweeps up vast amounts of electronic data, including phone calls and emails. The Justice Department acknowledged at the Times that it had, quote, detected issues that raised concerns and took comprehensive steps to correct the program and bring the program into compliance. It said that Attorney General Eric Holder went to the National Security Court to seek a renewal of the surveillance program pursuant to new safeguards, but a Justice Department investigation of parts of the NSA wiretap program over the past 2 years has revealed accusations of, quote, significant misconduct, according to the Inspector General, like an attempt to wiretap a member of Congress without a warrant, and other instances of making Americans targets based on insufficient evidence. Joining me now, as promised, investigative reporter for the New York Times, author of State of War, The Secret History of the CIA and the Bush Administration, James Risen. Thank you for your time tonight, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Focusing first on this current problem under the supposedly legal version of the NSA wiretapping program. What is the crux of this? How vast is it?
We're still trying to figure that out. What we do know is that over the last few months, there has been increasing concern both at the Justice Department and in Congress over what appears to be just an inability of the NSA to stay within the legal limits that were established by the new FISA bill last summer. They are collecting far more domestic email and telephone traffic than they're supposed to under even the very broad and relaxed regulations that were imposed last year. It makes it appears to be a problem of the inability of the NSA to distinguish between foreign and domestic communications. But the technical details we're still trying to determine.
Some of this did come to light because of the new FISA law that was passed last July, which is the same law that took so much of this mammoth surveillance program and tried to make it legal. But the safeguards in here, can we even know if they're really working, even if problems can even be resolved? How would we ever know for certain that it's working or not working?
That's one of the real problems here is getting some independent oversight over this program. A lot of the oversight is really still being done by the NSA. And the NSA, working with the Justice Department, goes to the secret FISA court and certifies that they're doing it right. And then they tell Congress whether they're doing it right. So it really requires the NSA to kind of admit that they've got a problem, because the Justice Department really doesn't have the technical expertise in a lot of ways to do this on their own. So it's one of the real problems, is having real independent oversight over this. It doesn't really exist at this point.
This lightning bolt in the middle of your story, the attempted warrantless wiretapping of a member of Congress, when, why, what do you know about it?
Well, that's one of the problems. We don't know a lot of details about it, but a very senior U.S. intelligence official with direct knowledge of this, person I can't identify, gave us this information. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to identify the congressman yet, but we do know that it occurred overseas and that the NSA had already begun to eavesdrop on someone else who was traveling with the congressman, and then wanted to go up and eavesdrop directly on the congressman and was blocked at the last minute.
As for the past warrantless wiretapping, there was the former NSA analyst Russell Tice who told us over the winter on this program that groups of Americans had been targeted on a 24/7 basis, including people in news organizations, reporters. You have told us that you're fairly certain that you were a target. Does the other information alluded to in your story today shed more light on any of that, or is this simply additional evidence that Americans were frequently the target of a system that was supposed to intercept overseas communications that were supposedly involving suspected terrorists?
I think what it shows is that, as you may remember, President Bush and other members of his administration kept saying, basically, trust us. We have very tight controls over this program. I think what this shows is that the controls are much more lax than they ever wanted to admit, and that the spying on Americans may have gone far beyond anything we realized before.
James Risen, investigative reporter of the New York Times, author of State of War. Great thanks for the story, and great thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.